Welcome to What Matters, a podcast that looks inward at unique experiences, upward for divine direction, and outward at God's activity in the world. I'm Michelle Funk, your host. I'm so glad you're here with us today. I want to remind you to subscribe to the podcast. That way you won't miss any of our upcoming episodes. Today, you're in store for a treat. I am so excited to get to spend some time today with Pastor WillIams, and just delighted that we get to have conversation about something that matters. And so welcome.
Thank you.
And so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me, Michelle. It's really fun to be here in the studio and to be talking about what matters with you. So thanks for the invitation.
You bet. You bet. So What Matters, that's the name of the podcast. That's the whole intent. We have conversation around what is important in life, in ministry, in our personal interactions with one another. And our hope, too, is that it's something that matters to God. And I feel like He's pretty faithful. God's pretty faithful to make that happen. So,
absolutely.
So with that, what matters?
Yeah. Well, I am Ann Williams, and I'm one of the pastors here at Resurrection, and I get to serve our downtown campus. And so my position there is to be in charge of care. And so I've been on staff for about 10 years. I just recently celebrated 10 years, which makes you pause and think. When you're talking about like looking inward, I was like, yeah, there has been a lot of looking inward lately, and just kind of reflecting and thinking back over time and how we grow and change and God calls in different ways. But and then I've been at the downtown campus for the past, I keep time by my oldest son, which is, he's almost 7. So it's been like probably 6.5 years of time at Resurrection Downtown. But my responsibility is care. And my passion has always been to care for our community and our congregation. And so that's what I spend a lot of my time thinking about, is making sure people feel loved and supported when they go through a hard time in particular. We do a little bit of proactive care with positive, milestones in life, with weddings and baptisms and things like that, membership and that sort of thing. But most of what we do is respond to the hard stuff and pray for people through the hard stuff. But part of what I love to do is supervise and, lead a team of volunteers who feel really called to that work, because we know that people do feel called to that. People have gifts for those, jobs and roles and visits and calls and all that kind of stuff. People have life experiences they want to share. And we have a prayer team, and we have our care ministers or CCMs. And we also have meals teams that deliver meals for folks, and, hospital visitation teams and all that kind of stuff. But that's what I spend my time doing and thinking about. But sometimes I get kind of, I don't know, I get tired or frustrated that care is so inwardly focused. Yeah. Because when you talked about we look inward, upward, and outward, did I get that right?
Yes. Yeah.
That outward part is really important to me too. Yeah. Thinking about the people who are outside the walls of the church. Right. And so a lot of what I think about is how care does intersect with the outside world and people who aren't a part of our community, maybe aren't yet a part of our community, but might be someday, or people that never will be, because I do care about this churchy word, evangelism. And so evangelism is kind of the sharing of our faith and the sharing of God's good news in the world around us to people who haven't heard it. And that's part of our mission at Church of the Resurrection is, to build a Christian community where non-anomaly religious people are becoming deeply committed Christian. And so that idea that we care about the people who aren't here yet, or maybe will never be here, but that are non-anomaly religious. Maybe they haven't heard of Jesus, or they have heard of Jesus, or, the church hurt them, or there's a bazillion reasons, and we can get into that, why there are folks who aren't inside the walls of the church. But I've been really interested in thinking about how does care intersect with that? And so I think that a lot of times folks won't enter the doors of a church unless maybe they come for a wedding. Or maybe they come for a funeral to show love toward a friend who's gone through, something difficult. And so those are care moments, and they're caring for our community and our congregation. But actually, we see a ton of first-time visitors or first-time guests to our church when we host an event like that. And so what we communicate in those moments makes a really big difference, and it makes an impact. Or if they see, oh, my friend was really well cared for by the church during a hard time, or they had a beautiful wedding service, for their daughter or a son. And that was really, one of the most beautiful weddings I'd seen, or I really like the way they said this or talked about love. That makes an impact, and it can really inform somebody's perception of faith, church, Christ, all of those things. So those are some of the things that I think about. And today I kind of wanted to narrow in on the idea of just being a good friend and kind of on a one-on-one. Those are large scale ways that care intersects with evangelism. But one of the kind of more fine-tuned ways that it happens all the time is when, people in our life ask us to pray for them, like our friends, our neighbors, our coworkers, and kind of thinking about how we express our faith and how we can be people who communicate God's good news for the world through the way that we interact with our friends.
Yeah. I love that, because so many times you see a church and you think, it's a structure, it's a building, and I wonder what all is going on inside there.
Yep.
And as part of a church staff, we do focus on that a lot because that's what we are to do. But the idea that, in noticing this structure, this church, what if you've never walked through the doors?
Yeah.
That's actually how we started coming to Church of the Resurrection.
Oh, really?
My family, years ago, when our kids were small, this church was adding on to the East Building, or the Building C, whatever, an education wing. And so we would drive by. We had 3 little boys. They noticed the trucks, like the dump trucks and the
like
crane.
On a playground,
and this
or
is at the
building,
church,
the construction site.
Construction.
Yes.
They noticed it
Real-sized.
they noticed the real deal happening, and at this construction site, and that's all they cared about. What's going on?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, they would want us to drive by and see what's going on.
Wow.
As adults, we were kind of like, what is going on here? This looks like a church that's adding on. Well, that says something.
Totally.
So we totally started to wonder about what was happening within the walls of the church being on the outside of at that current moment. And So tell me more, like what you think, what are some ways that, people do find their way walking through the doors of the church, and what are some ways we can extend invitation or be a good friend in that manner?
Well, one of the things that I've been thinking about is some of the statistics. And so that idea that, numbers are just falling for people who want to associate themselves with a Christian faith. We see folks who are spiritual but not religious rising, or non-religious rising. We see people who are attending church weekly just completely plummeting. And so those numbers are just really stark, you know what I mean? And like they should draw our attention. Like I wonder why, or what we can do about that.
Right.
But I brought some information with me because one thing that I've learned in this past year through the pandemic is that there's been some science around Google searches for the word prayer. Yeah. And what we found is that the number of searches for the word prayer has just skyrocketed in the year 2020 during the pandemic, this crisis that we've all seen. And so to me, I put those two kind of statistics next to each other, and I think, why? What does that tell us? And to me, it says people may not be interested in organized religion. They might struggle with coming to church on a Sunday morning or entering those doors for the first time, but they're wanting to connect with God, or they will reach out for prayer or support if they're going through a difficult time. That's care.
Right.
And so what I see when I look at that is that care gives us a window, like an opportunity. It's a moment where people are really searching. They're either searching for answers, they're searching for support, they're searching for just, encouragement in a difficult time. And so for me, that's a window. That's an opportunity. It's a chance for us we know that Jesus, he was the kind of guy who didn't wait for people to come to him. He went out always. Yeah. So he went to people, and sometimes people interrupted him, right, on his way somewhere, but he was always kind of going to another place, to another spot to connect with people and to do his ministry. And so each of us has been given people in our life. And God has entrusted them to us. So friends, neighbors, the people in our home, that might be the hardest. Those people that we get to live with, those are sometimes the hardest people to love well and to be really gracious and hospitable toward. But, and it doesn't, some people might have tons and tons of friends and, acquaintances, but other people might have 2 or 3 close friends, and that's fine. But there's people that you connect with. And so it might be your kids' friends' parents, or it might be, your kids' teachers, or it might be your neighbor or your coworker. But inevitably, if somebody knows you're a Christian, they're likely going to nudge you and say, hey, I'm going through this thing. Will you pray for me?
Yeah.
And that to me is like the pivotal question. Like that can turn everything, because you can say, absolutely, yes, I'll pray for you. And you can leave it at that. And you're probably even going to pray for them.
Yeah.
Or you can take that and let that launch like this whole sequence of events where you're showing up for them as a friend in a new and different way, like something maybe they've never experienced before, and a really hard time for them. And if and when you do that, I mean, what I love to see is that moment becomes an opportunity for your friend to go, wow, I felt really loved and cared for. In a way that changed my life, or was just pivotal for me getting through whatever this hard time was. And if we can do things, love people in such a way that it makes them pause and go, what is it about Michelle that just, she knows how to be a great friend. She would check up on me. She would do this. She would do this. We can go through some ideas in a minute, but if we get them wondering and curious about what is it about her that drove her to be the kind of friend I really needed, that shifted the needle on my situation, then we have an opportunity to share our faith. And we have an opportunity to live out that membership expectation, at least for those of us, who are members at Resurrection. It's a chance for us to share our faith and to say, well, I do this because of Jesus. I do this because I felt God calling me to do it. I do it because, and you're able to maybe share, or likely people are maybe already connecting those dots. Like, oh, I know where this comes from. I know when she prays for me, she really meant it. I know she has a daily devotion time every single morning. And so when she, says that she prayed for me, I bet my name was on a list inside her Bible. You know what I mean? Or just it becomes more real. It's less like, yes, I'll pray for you. How can we make that real and tangible? So those are some of the things that I think about. And our model here at Resurrection, I love. It's to, employ volunteers. I talked about the volunteers a minute ago. We look for people who are excellent at care, and we train them and we support them. As pastors, we have teams and we guide people through hospital visitation and calling people and praying with them and all those types of things. But I've been kind of dreaming about a different model. And that's, instead of thinking, okay, who is really good at this? Who has these gifts for empathy or life experiences that would really make them great at this? Instead, what if we as a community, said, everyone is charged with being a care provider. Everyone is charged with being a care minister. And who is it in your life? You might not care for the people inside the congregation. Who is it in your life that only you know, that you have an opportunity to show up for in a different kind of way? And we're taking our faith and the ministry of care outside the walls of the church in a way that can, I think, move mountains.
Yeah, and express what we tend to kind of learn inside the church, about just the different elements of our faith and the reasons for them, the foundations of faith, the essentials of our Christian growth. And so then we can turn those around into expressions of faith, and in, just like you're saying, real and tangible ways. I love that little acronym, IRL, in real life. How do we do faith in real life?
Absolutely. Yes.
And it is a charge and a call, and one that you don't have to have a special degree or
that's right,
the robe or whatever it might be. We can all just be IRL faith people, and figure out ways to express it. That's like something that fits my personality, that does offer authentic and real care for another person.
You're making a great point. And I also I'm thinking about how, there's so much talk around like personality typing and Enneagrams. Here at the church, we also use like strengths, we talk about strengths a lot. So I'm all blue strengths, which, we can talk about that another day. But all the blue ones are those interpersonal care, empathy type, relationship building gifts. Okay. So, what happens if there's somebody who I don't have any blue gifts, you know, or obviously we know everyone has all of them, but that maybe doesn't feel like their number one or their top five strengths.
Right. It's not mine. That's not my top color.
Yeah.
I have to
So
say.
I think that we've gotten comfortable with saying, let's leave that to blue people, you know, and that's what they're called. Well, I think everybody has something to offer. And it might be that, you know, your next door neighbor who asks you to pray for them, like they might not have a blue person that they asked to pray for them. So maybe it's you, like you're the one. So I also think, yes, there might be people who are more naturally gifted at it. Or like you said, we can find our authentic ways of doing it based on how we are. And it maybe doesn't look the same. But the other piece is some of this can be learned. Sometimes, like, there's a book you can read. There's a resource. There's a training you can take. I mean, honestly, for me, the very best thing is just practice. It's doing things you're scared to do, learning from it, and trying to do better the next time. But, like, keep putting yourself out there doing things that are scary to do. And so to share some ideas, I mean, I think the praying piece is really important. Like, if you say you're going to pray for someone, pray for them.
Right.
Now, to take it the next step, then you let them know you just prayed for them. Yeah. And if that can be like a few days down the road, or if they've told you, I have a test on Tuesday, I'm really nervous about it, then you make a note on your calendar and you say, hey, I know you have a test today. I put it on my calendar. I'm praying for you. That's not cheating. Like, let's use our tools and our resources, you know what I mean, to stay organized. And that's not, it's okay if you didn't remember it naturally. You took the intentional step of saying, I want to make sure that I remember that at that time on that day, and to say, I paused and prayed for you. You can even take it another step forward and even try, like, here are the words that I prayed for you. I mean, all of that can happen by text. You can do it by phone. You can do it by email. There's a lot of different ways to, like, but to be able to loop that back around and say, not only did I say, yeah, I'll be praying for you, but I did, you know, how did that test go? Or when do you get the results from that? Or, you know, what's kind of to say, like, I'm in it for the long haul. And I think that's really important. I think we get skittish because we don't feel like we have the right things to say. We don't know what to say. Yeah. What do I say? How do I answer this question? Yeah. What do I pray for? I mean, I said like pray, like as though that's easy, but some of this stuff, it's really hard to even know what to pray for. Right. I think sometimes you can just ask, like, yeah, I'll be praying for that. What is it specifically? And it might be a surprise. You know, it might be that you think, oh, I'm praying for this particular result, but maybe they say, like, I'm just praying for peace, for their process, however it turns out. But to be able to kind of hash some of that out makes it, I think, more real and come to life for them in a way that goes, oh, she really meant it when she said, how can we help people know, like, when she said she's going to pray for me, I sometimes will, you know, light a candle in honor or like to remember someone, or as I pray for somebody, take a picture, snap just a quick picture and send it to them. I lit this candle for you today.
Nice.
That's a big deal. If you've written down a prayer list, like, and their name is on there, like, your name is on my prayer list, here's a picture of it. Or, you know, how can we just really help people understand we take that seriously, and then always inviting yourself maybe into that next step. So if you haven't visited somebody in the hospital, like, offered it. Okay, so post-COVID, like, I'm dreaming of a world where this is opening back up, right? Yeah. But I mean, we can show up in the hospital room for somebody. Well, that's scary. There's weird smells. Like, there's some people are comfortable in the hospital, some people aren't. But guess what? Like, the only way to get comfortable doing it is by doing it. We can, you know, cook a meal. Maybe you don't like to cook, so then we're delivering, you know, a pre-made meal. Or, I mean, I used to always think like, oh, I don't have time to cook a meal. And then I just started like showing up with a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store for people sometimes. Like, well, it's a gesture of my love. It's something you don't have to worry about dinner tonight. I didn't cook it, but it's
or
something.
Even a gift card.
Yes, absolutely. But you didn't have to worry about it. I think handwritten notes are like, I mean, they're so rare and beautiful to receive a handwritten note in the mail. And if you include a scripture passage, or if you include, you know, the prayer that you prayed, or some, I mean, that's just like a gorgeous gesture these days. But I think, and then I think just listening without the intention of fixing or trying to problem solve is such a beautiful gift as a friend. To say like, because I think when we try to problem solve or when we try to fix things, it's different if somebody's like, hey, do you have a resource for X, Y, or Z? Right. Okay, great. Share what you have. Yeah. But most friends just need to be heard and need to have their feelings validated. You're not crazy. You're not alone. Yes, this is hard. No wonder you're stressed because you're going through a lot. That feels way more encouraging to me than let me try to make it all better. And honestly, if somebody tries to fix it for me, then I feel like they're uncomfortable with my suffering. But if you have a friend who will just say, let me sit with you in the suffering and I don't have to try to make it all better, it's like gold.
Right.
I mean, it's just absolute gold.
Yeah.
And I think we all know what that feels like. We can all like think of someone right now or a time when we felt loved or cared for in that way. It's like, oh yeah, that's a different ball game.
Yeah. These are such great little just reminders of very tangible things that we can do that we probably are already doing.
Yep.
Actually, but when we couple that with the idea of it is what we're called to do. This is what God desires, is that we have these types of relationships where we offer encouragement and we stop and pause. I do see some people saying, I'm taking some time right now and I am thinking of you and I'm praying specifically for this. And I just wanted you to know that. And that's what I've been doing, like in this moment. And, I think that makes it real. Again, like we've been saying, that is an expression of faith, which is something that can be kind of out there and hard to understand, but it makes it real.
Well, and there's a lot of different ways of expressing our faith, especially when we talk about inviting other people or sharing our faith with other people. And so evangelism gets a bad rep because it is often thought of as or associated with, handing out tracts on a street corner or asking a stranger, like, have you been saved? Do you know where you're going to go if you die tonight?
Yeah.
And maybe there's a place for that. That doesn't work for me. I'm not personally like inspired by that. There's a lot of other ways to share our faith.
Yeah.
And I think that, when we live in such a way that makes people curious and feels extraordinary, it feels like otherworldly. Like I just felt the love of the divine expressed by my friend that maybe I didn't even know that well. I mean, I think this also gives us an opportunity to draw deeper into acquaintances.
Right.
And I don't know so I'm getting on a tangent, but I always think about how people go through a hard time. They go, you learn who your real friends are. But what I tend to hear is like, actually, there's this friend and we were just kind of barely like, we said hi to each other at work or we didn't really know. But guess what? She showed up for me.
Yeah.
And that was the moment like we began a deeper friendship. Like I sometimes find myself hesitant, like, oh, is this my place? I don't know this person very well, or I don't want to pry for information. But if there's an opening, there's an invitation, like to pray or to enter in, it could be an opportunity to go deeper with a friend and to really like cement something that, ends up being a lifelong friendship or something more meaningful. But I guess what I'm trying to say is give yourself that credit of this is a beautiful way of expressing your faith in inviting other people in and helping people know that how can you tie the dots, connect the dots for people that the way you are showing up for them is because of your faith. It's because, there's this amazing passage. It's like, well, I can't quote it. I'll have to find it later. But, that idea of like, we do this because God did it for us. I mean, there's that one too. Like we love because God first loved us. And so like any care or love or compassion that we offer into the world is an expression of that God's grace flowing through us. Yeah. And so abundantly that it's we can't help but just overflow it to someone else, even when it's uncomfortable and, or even when it's new or scary or different, or we're doing something outside of our comfort zone.
Yeah. And you know what I think I love about this is these are ways that we can share, extend, give, but then it's also the way that we are filled up, that our faith even becomes more real to us. Because I think about, like, there's some days, I don't know about you or anybody else, but especially in the past year, there have been some rough days where I have felt grumpy, didn't like anything that was going on, probably was not very nice to my very own family, you know. Oh,
absolutely.
But by just some miracle, I was able to pull myself up out of that just to do one nice thing for another person.
Yep.
And that improved my state of mind, my attitude. I think that's how, how it works is when we try to just share our faith
Yeah.
and the grace that accompanies it, then that grows within us as well. It's like a two-way street.
Absolutely. And I think it's kind of contagious. Like the more
That's a great word.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of gets
Contagious.
like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Or there's like a little bit of a thrill, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that was not that we delight. I have to pause. Not that we like delight in people's suffering, but to feel like I
You're
showed
doing
up in
something
a way that was
important.
meaningful.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all look for purpose and meaning in our life. And some people have the privilege of having that maybe in paid work, but not everyone does, and sometimes it's making a casserole for someone and knowing like, who am I going to bless this week, or who can I call, or who can I write a note to? And that feels like, yeah, like God, you made me for this, and I'm making a difference in, a big wide world full of hard things.
Yeah. And even in doing that, in entering in something that's hard or difficult, I mean, you're honoring it. You're just really honoring
Yeah.
another person's experience, whether it be through the midst of something really challenging and tough, or through a celebration as well. It's important to honor both of those, all of it.
I hear a lot like, what do I say?
Yeah.
And I think that we worry too much about saying the right thing. What I find is people don't remember what I say, even if it's super profound. I know all of our listeners will remember no, just joking. No, the prayer is always that whatever I say, that it would be that God could use it for the person to hear what God needs to say to them, or that what they need to hear from God. But I think it's not as common that our friends are going to look to us to solve all the answers to, why did I get this diagnosis?
Right.
Why does God, allow things like this to happen?
Yeah.
Or did God cause this? Or where is God in the midst of this?
Yeah.
I think by our showing up, we answer some of those questions.
Right.
We leave the unanswerable ones because they're not for us to answer here.
Yeah.
For some reason, God has said, like, we're not going to understand it all on the side of heaven. I have a list to talk with God about, when we get to heaven. But to say it's okay if some of those don't have answers. And it's not like our friends are waiting on us to cite scripture or recite apologetics. Like, we're not there to, like lead a theology class or something. We're there to show up with a smile, with like a friendly, grabbing their hand, a hug, a casserole, in a way that just feels like you're not alone.
Yeah.
And that's what we can do.
Right. Right. I think saying, just, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Or I'm in this with you.
Yes. Or I don't understand either.
Right.
Like I don't know.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll even say like, I don't understand why this happened. This feels very unfair. Something to that effect.
Yeah.
But here's what I do know.
Right.
Here's what I know for sure. God loves you.
Yeah.
God grieves when we grieve.
Yeah.
God cares about you. Like, God is trustworthy. You can go back to, here's what I do know for sure. Whatever's true to your own faith, that you could share with them. But yeah, that feels much more comfortable to me, and like a much more fun, authentic, like life-giving, rich way of sharing our faith. And I think that it's profound for people. They're going to remember who showed up for them,
Right.
And so I think it's an incredible way to, when we think about what it means to share good news, like that's being an agent of good news and God's grace in the world.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you. I love that. Let's end with this idea of, we can just express our faith and in an authentic way that says, I care.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great summary.
Yeah. And we can do that. Every one of us.
Yep.
Every person who has just said, yes, I'm in this thing called faith. I want to grow as a follower of Jesus, and as a Christian, and as a just somebody seeking the heart of God. That's what we're called to do.
And the people in our
Show up.
lives, God has entrusted them to us. God placed them in our life, and we have a responsibility to care for them.
Yeah.
And a privilege.
Yeah.
What a privilege it is, too.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. So I got to make some casseroles. No.
Whatever works for you, or a rotisserie chicken.
or get a candle lit. I love that image
Yeah.
of this candle right here. I lit it, and I'm thinking of you, and I'm praying about you right now.
Yeah.
Just beautiful.
It brings it to life. I know that would mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, that's what matters with Anne's great encouragement here of how to just be agents of faith, agents of good news, I think is what you said.
I love it.
I do too. I love that. That's going to stick with me.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks for listening. That's what matters today on the podcast. I'm Michelle Funk, your host, and we'll see you next time. I do love that. I am seriously going to light a candle and send that. That would make me teary-eyed if somebody sent me an image that, oh my gosh, that would be just so beautiful. So great examples of really easy and tangible and powerful.